Who is Sai Baba?
Well, for me, I can only say what is for me. Nobody knows who he really is. And many books are written about that. For me, he is the inner guidance, the energy, the inner guidance for every aspect of my life. So, but there is a needful thing to do. We have to ask the question. We have to connect ourselves with this level of consciousness, which he represents for me. And if I'm connected to this level of consciousness, many things are possible, which are only possible if you are connected. And for me, if I would ask the question, what is the essence of the spiritual way? I would say, after this many years of experience, I would say it's being connected, just being connected. Well, it was a very deep-reaching experience to come into contact with him, but it was not first by a personal meeting, but by a dream. And I was not in favor of Indian gurus, not at all, and I was a technical man at that time. And my wife started reading books from Sai Baba, and I told her, don't give it to me, I'm not interested. And but on one night, it was on the 27th of October of 1986.
So you remember this night?
Yes, I will never forget that. I had a dream, and Sai Baba appeared in my dream, and it was really a life-changing dream. It gave a lot of energy to look into a different direction. So the next morning I asked my wife, why not booking a flight to India?
The next morning?
Yeah, the next morning, because this dream was just overwhelming. I never had an interview or anything with him, but I was sitting in the first line. There was the devotees sitting in groups, and I was sitting in the first line. And he came along the line, and he was just standing in front of me. And I was yearning to get a word from him or something, and so he would say, "Oh, hello, good morning, here you are," but he said nothing, and he went further, and then I was disappointed for the first moment, and then a few steps further, he just turned around for a fraction of a second. He looked directly into my eyes, and I broke into tears. That was the first reaction of my system. I was not consciously doing that. And from that time on, many things changed in my life, and almost everything at the end.
You're a scientist. How can you account for such a huge event to happen by a split-second look into the eyes of another person?
Well, it's a question, I think, that you come into contact with an energy which you did not know before. And we don't know how Sai Baba is doing this. It's his secret. But he is changing people, and he has many, many ways to change people. And in my case, it was just a glance of, a second of a fraction of a second looking into my eyes. And then I had many, many dreams with him helping me in my life situations. And I found this, the contact to this inner level, which I didn't have before.
Manford Gass is a Sai devotee from Munich, Germany, where he worked for several years with Sai devotee Phyllis Krystal. His background is in the fields of physics, mathematics, and space, and then abruptly he changed his focus of interest to the area of family therapy. Welcome to Souljourns. This interview was recorded in Phyllis Krystal's home in Munich, Germany on August 11th, 2006.
Manfred Gass, originally from Strasbourg, now from Munich. Thank you very much for being willing to just sit and talk for a little bit. And if you don't mind my asking, just to start us off, how old are you, where are you from, and what is your profession?
Okay. First of all, I hope that my poor English is good enough for to answer your questions.
Perfect.
Well, you asked for my age. I'm 70.
Wow, you don't look 70.
A couple of weeks ago, and
well, happy birthday.
Oh, okay. And I like 70. That's a good time. And I do not want to repeat one of my years backwards. I'm glad to be 70 because it's also accumulation of experience of life which I like very much. Okay, you ask for my profession, which is not just a one way. Originally I studied physics and mathematics at the University of Munich, and I started a career in that field, and I came into the space field, this spacecraft things, and I was working, so I was leading a large institution with a lot of people, and I felt, after maybe, I would say, 15, 20 years, I felt that this type of work is just a portion of what I could do, the capabilities which I have.
But it's a very big portion. It would take a lot of energy to do that job well.
Yes, it took almost all of my energy because it was a managing job, So I felt that I cannot continue to live like this, to be just to stand on one leg, because every human being has many possibilities to express qualities and capabilities. So I looked for, and I knew that I like to work with people. And so I had a big chance to learn family therapy, just as my second leg,
Sort of like psychotherapy for family therapy?
Family therapy.
That seems to be 180 degrees away from being a physicist, mathematician.
Perfectly 180 degrees, but it's exactly what it had to be, because I was being a manager in the technical world. You live on a kind of, would say, a spectral line,
Yes.
What with respect to human capabilities, and so I needed a 180 degrees compensation to that, to expand, and that is, the family therapy was perfect for me.
And what age in your life did this occur?
That was 40.
So it's been for 30 years now you've been doing this.
That's right, yeah. And when I started to do that at 4.5 years training on that, and I finished with a diploma for that, and I started to do both in parallel, and that was make me very happy to have the second lab. And with the time, with the years, I realized that my real love is more on that side, working.
Do you ever wonder what it would have been like had you started out when you were 20 or 25?
Well, I didn't actually know what to do. So originally I wanted to be a musician with my violin under my arms and go to a university or to a music school and start learning this. But then it turned out that it was too late for me to do that, because you have to start this when you're 4 or 5 years old. So I was really insecure, and the point was, it's just by chance. I had when I did my bachelor, bachelor, I had a very good test in mathematics, just by chance maybe. So I thought it would be a good thing to study mathematics, but it was not really for my heart. So I never came to something which was close to my heart until I got to this therapy.
And then you realized
And then I
intuitively.
realized, and then since 25 years now, I switched over completely to this.
Manfred, help me out here. I want to see if I can make a comparison that works regarding an individual with their professional life and an individual regarding their spiritual life. My guess is, especially here in Europe, there are many people, more so here in Europe than in America, who don't give much thought to spirituality because they're involved with the world.
Yeah.
But sometimes there are opportunities that present themselves, and some people choose to pursue them and some don't.
Yeah.
Is there a comparison in your mind how both of those important areas in life can lead you to progress if you choose to take the opportunity as you did in your professional life?
Well, if I understood correctly what you mean, that there's you talk about a duality?
Yes.
Okay. And I think what you call a spiritual life could be introduced in any kind of form of living and doing professional work. It does not include this or that. So it's just a matter of the inner orientation. So I could could have my spiritual life, even if certainly if I'm a manager of a technical company, no problem. I just have to open up to the inner path.
Perhaps a better way of stating my question is, as you saw yourself grow in your professional life, 180 degrees, did you experience ever a similar transition in your spiritual life?
Well, I was never away from believing in I would say, in the inner world my whole life. But when I when I realized that I had to do something to change my life professionally, I also I had to open up. I had a chance to open up more to the spiritual way, and certainly it came more or less at the same time. And I think it's not just by chance. It is it's an inner law which you have to follow. Your inner law, which gives you the opportunities to do something for your life.
So this
it's not a mental decision. Mm-hmm. It comes from the inner need, and I think this comes from this level which we're just talking about.
Did you have a fair degree of confidence when you were 40, when you made this transition in your professional life and your spiritual life, that it was the right thing to do?
Yes. I had, I learned, I met, I would say, a teacher, a spiritual teacher, and he gave me a lot of confidence in myself. And so from that time on, I guess all my decisions were much more based on this, from this inner level. You know, the security came from this inner level instead of from my mind, which I had. Before that, my decisions based on, you know, my thinking, my making decisions, my judging, and this was more and more replaced by a confidence which came from a different level.
Were you raised a religious young man, Lutheran, Catholic?
I'm Catholic, yeah, and I started off serving in the church as a young man, and I was very close to it. But you know, it's the time to come. You ask questions. Mm-hmm. And you don't get the answers which you expect to get. So answers which are not in line with what you are feeling, you know, what you're perceiving from within. So you have to look and to find your own way finally.
It sounds
that's my experience.
It sounds like this teacher you encountered around the age of 40, the spiritual teacher. It was a huge blessing in your life because
yes.
Not everybody has encounters like that.
Yeah.
Is that teacher still around?
Yes, he lives in India, and Sai Baba, of course. And you see, it's a long way with him in my life, and it changes from meeting him in India in person to meeting him within myself here where I live or where I am. Mm-hmm. And this is an inner development, so you finally come to a point that you are in contact with the, I would say, with the inner wisdom, mm-hmm. which he's replacing, which he is not replacing, which he's representing for me. The inner wisdom, the inner guide, the inner, the higher consciousness within myself. So, and I find it within myself. So I must not go somewhere to find it. I have it, and that is the process that you get more and more confidence in this level of wisdom, level of higher consciousness within yourself. So you do not have to look for solutions outside yourself.
And I take it the priests and the nuns of the Catholic Church came so far, but not far enough to teach you that about yourself.
Well, see, the Catholic Church is in a situation where many people who, I would call it, are inclined to go a mystical way. That means the inner powers are not sufficiently supported by the religion structures, as many religions, like the Hindu religion or also the Muslim, the Islam religion, they have a structure for the people who need a structure. But they also have this mystical wing included in the scope of this religion, like the Sufis in the Islam. Yes. And that's what the Christian churches do not have.
Except for the old Christian church.
Except for those. And what we have is, I would say, a concentration just on the structure. Mm-hmm. And that is good for many, many people, you know. Many people need a structure to have a guidance, to follow a way, do not have to make decisions which they cannot do. So they find a good guidance in the churches or in the religions, in the Christian religions, but it's not for everyone. And if somebody is looking for going a mystical path, it's maybe not so much a good possibility to find it there, because all the Gnostics, you know, have been suppressed.
Have been suppressed?
Suppressed over the centuries, and this would have been the mystical knowledge in the churches, you know. That's true for our days, you know. We have a man in Germany who started, he's a priest, and he started to go the Zen meditation way and introduced it into in his environment in the church, and he was excluded from his services and functions.
Just too foreign, too much
because
of a
it's the mystical way. It's the mystical way says you find God within yourself.
Well, how does the mystical way enable you to find a greater sense of God within yourself?
Well, I would say the real awareness of such God level I could find only within myself. I never had it before in such an intensity and in such a security in perceiving as now, you know. And that is the important step to be autonomous with respect to be part of not to be an individual with separated from from God or from something and looking for God or for this level outside, but to see everything within yourself and feel that you are part of something which is much bigger.
And for somebody who might be watching this, who isn't there where you are, who's not experienced mysticism on any level, but has an interest in doing so, what might you recommend for them to do to practice living towards a more mystical existence?
Well, the important point is to try to get away from the outer senses and to develop the capability to listen to your inner senses, to listen to your inner ear, your inner eyes, and your inner feelings. And it doesn't come overnight, you know, you have to train it. And training it means that you start to look inside, to meditate, and to be with yourself, and to turn away from the out to the orientation to outside, and try to orient to inside, and there you will find something. And that it will gradually grow within yourself, that you find that you perceive something, and as more as you perceive within yourself, you get more confidence in this inner world, and there you find your inner peace. There you find your calmness, your peace of mind.
Well, if you continue along that spectrum and you find greater peace and calmness, does this mean the degree to which fear affects people's lives gets smaller?
Yeah, you have you feel a strong confidence in your inner world, and you feel at home. So much more than any other feeling, being at home is this feeling at home in my inner security, in my inner contact. And as more as you have the security from within your fears, which are always mind-driven, you know, they are decreasing. Yeah, you get more security in your life, and real security.
Do you still have much fear in your life?
Well, I don't think right now I'm a big fear, but it could come tomorrow, you know, you never know. But I feel a quite balanced situation in my mind, and I experience this inner peace many times. And once you have experienced it, you know, and as soon as you become aware of something which you can go back to, if you have experienced it, it belongs to you, you know, so you can always go back to this. And that is the point, that you have something where you can go back And always means to draw your attention from the outer world and orient it to the inner world and find there your inner peace and all these things.
I want to know if you call that God or by any other name. My wife, for example, likes to talk about seeking a personal experience with God, something that the organized religion in which she was raised didn't necessarily provide that for her. So in her present spiritual walk, she likes it mostly because of a personal experience with the divine. Can you talk about that? Does that happen for you, or would you describe it in some other way?
Well, it's for me, it's not so easy to describe a personal experience with God, because what means God? Yeah, that's first of all a word, just a word, and a word which is maybe very often misused too, from many aspects. But what I can report about myself is a personal experience in a level of consciousness within myself, which gives me confidence that beyond my body, beyond my mind, there is something which is my true reality, and that is an experience. And I would say to come into contact with this. That's the most important thing. Beyond this, you can meet a person who is a very enlightened person or is really a world teacher, but this person could give you an impulse to look for this inner experience, and then you are there. It's not enough just to meet this person, because nothing will happen. He could give you opening the window, opening the door, breaking the ties, and all this. But the way to your inner experience, you have to go by yourself.
And I would imagine you learned that in part from following the teachings of Satya Sai Baba.
Yeah.
How has Sai Baba transformed your life the most, assuming that's happened already?
Well, it was a very deep-reaching experience to come into contact with him, but it was not first by a personal meeting, but by a dream. And I was not in favor of Indian gurus, not at all, and I was a technical man at that time.
Were you practicing your religion at that time?
Not as in an extensive manner, but I was looking for this inner truth, or for what is God, and how could I practice, And my wife started reading books from Sai Baba, and I told her, don't give it to me, I'm not interested. And but one night, it was on the 27th of October of 1986.
So you remember this night?
Yes, I will never forget that. I had a dream, and Sai Baba appeared in my dream, and it was really a life-changing dream. It gave a lot of energy to look into a different direction. So the next morning I asked my wife, why not booking a flight to India?
The next morning?
The next morning, because this dream was just overwhelming. And so we met him, and I never had an interview or anything with him. But I was sitting in the first line. There was the devotees sitting in groups, and I was sitting in the first line. And he came along the line, and he was just standing in front of me. And I was yearning to get a word from him or something. And so he would say, "Oh, hello, good morning, here you are." But he said nothing. And he went further. And then I was disappointed for the first moment. And then, a few steps further, he just turned around for a fraction of a second. He looked directly into my eyes. And that was the point, So it was nothing what I could expect or hope. It was just something on a different level. And because I broke into tears, that was the first reaction of my system. I was not consciously doing that. And from that time on, many things changed in my life, and almost everything at the end.
You're a scientist. How can you account for such a huge event to happen by a split-second look into the eyes of another person?
Well, it's a question, I think, that You come into contact with an energy which you did not know before. And we don't know how Sai Baba is doing this. It's his secret. But he is changing people. And he has many, many ways to change people. And in my case, it was just a glance of, a second of a fraction of a second looking into my eyes. And then I had many, many dreams with him helping me in my life situations. And I found this, the contact to this inner level which I didn't have before.
Who is Sai Baba?
Well, that's a question which is very often asked. And for me, I can only say what is for me. Nobody knows who he really is. And many books are written about that. For me, he is the inner guidance, the energy, the inner guidance for every aspect of my life. So, but there is a needful thing to do. We have to ask the question. We have to connect ourselves with this level of consciousness, which he represents for me. And if I'm connected to this level of consciousness, many things are possible, which are only possible if you are connected. And for me, if you would ask the question, what is the essence of the spiritual way? I would say after this many years of experience, I would say it's being connected, just being connected. And being aware of this reality within myself. And that is Sai Baba for me, the reality of that divine level within myself. And what I can do, and that's all I can do, is to try to be connected, to be in contact with that level, if possible all the time. But of course that's not easy, because the outer world takes our attention away from that, but we can always come back and be connected again. So he said once, the most important thing for you, for these devotees, to follow me is to be in a constant integrated awareness. And this constant CIA. And this constant integrated awareness, that's, for me, that is Sai Baba. That is the energy, it's the level of consciousness from which I can live and from which I can draw my security for everything, in fact.
And Manfred, every day, how much of the time do you think you are living in constant integrated awareness?
That is very, very much about the outer circumstances. There are days, you can make it all the time by yourself. It's just also, I think it's also a little bit of a grace to be in a situation where it's easy to stay in contact all day long. But sometimes it's not so easy, because your attention is drawn away by things which happen. So, but I never worry about the quantity of being connected. It's the quality, and it's the knowledge that I always, by doing the decision, can turn back to this inner connection.
Does it ever bother you when somebody might be critical or say something that's not positive about Sai Baba?
Well, there are many, many rumors around, as with every person in such a situation. He's called an avatar, and what means an avatar is again a word, but it's an incarnation of divine consciousness on earth for me. But we also have this divine consciousness within ourselves, and it's this teaching. So if a person like this, a man, I would say, he always would be followed by rumors and things. And if you meet him and see his way of talking to people, his radiating this unconditional love, which finally is his essence, then you are really getting contact with this energy. You can be pretty safe that this is a pure heart.
And even though he has not had a direct two-way conversation except for in your dreams, you still feel this sense of connection.
I talk to him. Inside. And I get answers which you might not get maybe in interviews, because you are in a crowd and many people have your yearnings and questions, and he would do this and that, would materialize many, many little things and so, and you're distracted maybe. But if you concentrate on the inner questioning and you get answers which are maybe really worth to.
Does he give you guidance?
Yes, absolutely.
With your personal life?
Yeah, absolutely.
With your professional life?
Yes, every time, everything.
Does he ever disappoint you or give you an answer that sounds
You
too
say
much puzzling?
you say he, and that is now again is something, you know, I ask within.
I see.
And for me, Sai Baba is the level of higher consciousness, and I do not refer to him personally. I just frankly say this. I do not travel to India since many years.
He says not to be attached to his form.
Yeah, well, and I think if you get the experience that you must not call him personally, but just connect to this level of consciousness. Then you get what you need. And I wouldn't say he, I would say it.
There's another person who refers to it as higher consciousness, and that's Phyllis Krystal.
Yes.
Tell me about some of your work with her.
Well, I met Phyllis Krystal, I don't know, many, many years ago. It was early in the 80s or something. I was very impressed about the teaching. And afterwards I met Sai Baba, and I realized that what Phyllis Krystal is teaching is the Sai Baba's message in the form for therapists, to work for therapists. It is the content of his message. And it is brought into a form in Phyllis Krystal's method, which is useful for therapists. So also for people to work on themselves. But in fact, it's Baba's teachings. So it was perfectly fitting into, I would say, into my second professional life. I felt it's. I tried many things, and I tried the Jungian therapy form, which is a good one, and I tried the behavioral, the learning. You know, we are learning systems, and you can do a lot in the therapies with learning. And I tried also the, the humanistic therapies, which came from Maslow and others, which are very, very good. But meeting with Phyllis Krystal's method, I found it at the end of the searching it. It's a point where you can get and work with people. So I'm integrating this completely into my professional work.
I'm curious about one question. In reading about this form of therapy, such as cutting the ties that bind, it seems that there's not a person on this earth who does not have something that they could profit from by cutting from their past, because of the wider range of negative experiences that any of us might have, whether it's from parents or teachers or neighbors or siblings.
Yes.
Is psychotherapy something that everyone can profit from, or just some people?
Well,
This form of psychotherapy.
This form of psychotherapy.
Yeah.
Well, this form of psychotherapy is, it's a form, psychotherapy again is a word, you know. It's a way for people to first of all, to connect to their higher self. And it is a good thing for everyone on this earth, you know, and every human being on this earth to try to connect to this inner level of wisdom and try to get experiences from there, to get answers from there. And then you can expand this experience of being in contact with this inner level into, if you would say, in the therapeutical work, you know, because you help people to trust into this inner source and to cut from the ties they are bound to since their childhood, because we come into this world and the first thing we bind ourselves, we come into this necessity to be bound into ties, because as a little baby I need everything from outside, you know. So our life should be devoted to try to get rid of all the bindings again and to get free and to have only one tie left, which is to the higher self.
In this world today, in 2006, in Europe, in America, throughout the rest of the world, there's so much knowledge and people are so intelligent, yet it seems that the majority of people don't find the need to pursue their own higher consciousness. Why do you suppose that is?
Well, I think the army is growing. More and more people are getting confident that the way the human society is going is not the way for peace and for the solution of the problems of the world, and especially the problems of human society to live together. More and more people get aware of that and try to find solution from other sides, from the inner level. And I think I'm very positive. I'm optimistic. I'm that there will be a change in the world someday, and I think it's not a gradually process. There will be some. I would say there will be a point where there will be something like a quantum jump.
Mm-hmm.
If a certain amount of spiritual energy is assembled within mankind on Earth, it will lead to a quantum jump. Mm-hmm. That on a larger scale, a change in the human mind will take place.
And for somebody who might be seeing this for the first time, who's never done work like this, where would you even begin to point them to a direction where they can begin that process?
First of all, to look into the situation of the world, where to find a structure, political structure, economical structure, or what have you, any kind of structure or religious structure to save the world. And these people, everyone would do a hard job to find a structure which is good enough for saving the world, saving mankind. So that would be the beginning to mistrust all these structures which are used today by politics and by economics, and then to look for alternative solutions. First, you must be convinced that the way you are pursuing is not leading to a success, and then you can look for something else.
In Europe today, it's my impression there are many atheists, many people who don't have any spirituality. They follow the God of the mind, perhaps, yet I'm going to guess that many of them live in fear of death because they don't believe anything exists following death. What do you think exists after you die?
Well, I had for 10 years a very, very interesting experience in my life, maybe the most important one. That is, I was working with in a hospice with people in terminal illness, and I was with them through the last weeks to the end. And many of them, I was also with them together in the last minutes. And I think it's very good to have an experience in seeing what happens. What happens with people who accept their dying, what comes, and to have this inner trusting to that say this will not be the end, and to see how they die, and compared to that, to see how people would die who do not believe in a continuation of something, who would rather believe in that's the end of everything. And you couldn't imagine how different the dying process is between these two different persons. Mm-hmm. And that was maybe for me an experience which took away completely my fear of dying. So I'm very confident that looking into the face of a person who just died, how this face is changing. I mean the person who believes that it's not the end. How the face is changing after the last breath.
Really?
That's a miracle. Because you could see a glimpse of the new which she is encountering on the face after she did the last breath.
And what does that look like? Peacefulness?
Peaceful. It's a glooming. Mm-hmm. And it's a gift for the person who is watching it, you know. because it gets something very, very precious for its own life, you know. And it's a glimpse from the other world.
And two personal questions, and you've already answered one, but I'm going to ask it again. With all that you've experienced, do you have any fear about death?
Well, it's difficult to answer. You never know what comes, you know. But looking from now, we are sitting together here, you're there, I'm here. I would say I could open my eyes and look forward to see what comes to me. But as I said, you never know what happens. You know, it could be an experience which is new for you, and you never know how you would react. Today I'm confident, yeah, and I hope I will stay confident.
And that sort of answers my second question, but I'll ask it anyway. What is going to happen to Manfred Gass after you die?
Well, I'm pretty much convinced that I take up another form. I would say a subtle form, the same Manfred Gass, but not in a person, not bounded to a person, qualities, but being in a wider state of wider consciousness, understand the meaning of my last life, which I just finished, and maybe many other lives which I had before, and understand the meaning of everything, of all of this, which I cannot understand when I'm in my body, you know, because the ability to understand is limited. But I think I will be in a state where I understand much more.
And a few important questions before we wrap this up, having to do with family therapy. When you encounter somebody who's been attached to negativity in many levels for many years, can you give them hope that it's not too late to change their life?
Well, see, if somebody comes and is still caught in, as you say, negativity, I normally don't name it like this, because I do not let's say between negative and positive so much, because I think everything which comes to us is something where we have something to learn. And we do not need the word negativity. It's maybe good to have just a learning situation for everybody. And if somebody comes and if is really faced with a learning situation which may create a lot of problems for the person, I think the first thing the person must accept the fact that it is like this. That a person came into a situation where the learning step became unavoidable. So, and that is the point where we can start. Unless the person is ready to accept this, every therapy would be useless. Yeah, the person must come to the point to understand that is a situation where I cannot escape. I have to do something. I have to learn something. And then you can start to work with them.
So it's unavoidable, or they wouldn't be there.
That's right.
At that point.
Yes, that's the point. Yeah.
And a couple of last concerns about Sai Baba. What about those people who are your friends and relatives and co-workers and family members who don't quite understand your attraction to Sai Baba? If they ask you, or if they're critical, or if they're puzzled, do you try to win them over? Do you try to proselytize? Do you try to explain? Or do you say nothing?
Well, I have 3 sons. And they learned that I was going to India and see an Indian guru, and they were really thinking he's got crazy now, our dad. And they were looking very, well, they were in fear about me, you know. So I did nothing to tell them, you should go there, please read this and that. And I just let them make the experience what happens with their dad, you know. And that took years. And I remember very well, on Christmas Eve, my youngest son, I thought he was closest to this, being open to that. And I I gave him, I wanted to give him for Christmas a book, and I had a nice envelope. He couldn't see what it was. And I gave him under the Christmas tree this book, and he asked me, "Is this from Sai Baba?" I said, "Yes." And he turned it immediately back and said, "Please, I am not interested." So I knew it was too early, and it was a very good lesson for me not to try to convince anybody about such experience before the person is ready to accept it. And that is, again, an inner process. You cannot make it. You are in an inner stream, I guess. I like to call it the understream. And the understream is going on. And if you are aware of the process of human development, you know, human process, inner process, you can be trustful that this inner stream brings you to a point where the question comes up. And you cannot make it, because that's your life, you know. That's the reason why you are here and how you are here, that you will be faced one day or another which you cannot make with this real quest, and this quest at that time is unavoidable then. Then you have to face with the point, is this all what I have seen so far in my life, or exists something else which I should look into it?
Final question. Catholic, altar boy, physicist, mathematician, social worker, family therapist, Sai Baba devotee, what would you like to be your greatest legacy?
My greatest what?
Legacy, what you leave behind of yourself.
Leaving behind of myself?
To the
Well,
world.
you forget one thing, I'm a gardener.
Okay.
And I'm like to be a gardener. I want the least thing to leave behind me and be a gardener, because I like the plants growing, you know, and eat the fruits.
What would you like people to think of you? How would you like people to think of you after you're gone?
After I left this nice earth here, my
Yes.
nice body or whatever it is, to be a man, a person who encountered love, or who met love, and who believed in love, and who was able more and more during the year, that's what I hope, to give this love further to others, not to keep it in as a secret within myself, but to give it further. And if people would think of me like this, he's a man who learned to love, and we could see it more and more as he grew older, I would be happy afterwards.
Manfred Gass, thank you very much for joining us today. And sign off.
Okay, I thank you for very nice questions.
You're welcome.
Well, the airport thing, you know, you are very lucky to leave England, because the day after you left.
Friday, August
Friday,
the 11th, 2006, we're in Munich, Germany. Manfred Gass, originally from Strasbourg, now from Munich. Thank you very